Board of Zoning Appeals virtual meeting. Per Executive Order 202-28 by the Governor of the State of New York, the town of Smithtown is required to continue hosting all public meetings either in person, in which case we must prohibit physical public contact, or public meetings can be held remotely via conference call or similar service. Additionally, per the executive order, the town continues to live stream, record, and transcribe each meeting.
On the stairway.
Governor Cuomo stated at the beginning of the pandemic that all levels of government must continue to function as normal or as close to normal as possible. As a reminder for any resident wishing to view today's meeting, you can do so by clicking on the Agendas and Meeting button on the homepage of the town's website at www.smithtownnewyork.gov. You are all here tonight seeking relief from the Smithtown zoning ordinance, and it's our job to try to help you achieve the relief you are requesting whenever possible. It's up to you to provide this board with precise and accurate information so we can make a decision based on the facts that you present here tonight. This board must consider the 5 area variance considerations in order to render a decision, and they are as follows. Whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. Number 2, whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance. Number 3, whether the requested variance is substantial. Number 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the board, but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variance. Procedures for tonight's meeting. Cases will be called in the order they are advertised. After your case is announced by Mr. Donadio, the moderator will connect you to the meeting so you can present your case to the board. After your case has been presented to the board, if the board has any questions, they will be asked. Then any written comments or concerns from interested residents received by the planning department will be read into the record. Next, any interested party who would like to speak on this case will be given one opportunity to do so. Then the applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to any questions or concerns, after which the case will be closed. Once the public hearing is closed, no further information will be accepted concerning the case. You can contact the planning board after 12 p.m. tomorrow for the status of your case. Mr. Donadio?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first case on the agenda is case number 18430, Banfield Pet Hospital. The location of the property is Veterans Memorial Highway in Comac. The location, the south side of Veterans Memorial Highway, just west of the Sunken Meadow Parkway. The property is zoned SCB. The applicant is requesting a special exception for an animal hospital.
Excuse me, I forgot we do have 2 adjournments tonight. I'd like to get them on the record before we begin.
Okay.
The first adjournment is case 18439, John and Gail Irwin. That has been adjourned to January 26th. And the next case is case 18406, MJ Industries. That has been adjourned to February 23rd. Sorry for the confusion. All right, Blaze.
I believe Mr. Guardino is up.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good evening, Chairman Benz, members of the board. My name is Anthony Guardino. I'm a partner with the law firm of Farrell Fritz in Hauppauge, New York. I am representing Banfield Pet Hospital, which is the contract lessee of a tenant space located at 62 Veterans Highway in Comac. Banfield is seeking a special exception to allow an existing retail or former retail tenant space to be used as a pet hospital. The space that it is looking to occupy was formerly occupied by a K Jewelers. I have with me Dane Kenny from, he's a professional engineer with VHB Engineers. Also Jason Ross, who is an engineer with VHB, and Christopher Roth from Vancouver, Washington is on the call as well. He's a real estate manager with Banfield, and he's on the call in case there are any questions that the board may have that I can't answer. Just a little bit about Banfield. It is a privately owned company. It was founded in 1955. It operates about a little more than 1,000 veterinarian clinics in 42 states and in Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. It represents, it's a little bit different now. The animal hospitals once, were provided in standalone buildings. And there's been an evolution where now we're seeing animal hospitals migrate towards retail centers. Banfield employs about 3,600 veterinarians who are all committed to providing high quality veterinary care in now a more convenient way to about 3 million pets annually. It currently operates a veterinarian clinic in Comac from within the nearby PetSmart store, which is just to the north of this site. If this application is approved, this facility will be Banfield's second standalone facility in New York. So just by way of some background, the property is part of the 38-acre, I think the center is now called the Whole Foods Plaza Shopping Center in Comac. And on the site plan, this site is identified as Pad D. And the property is located in the SCB Shopping Center Business District. And that district permits this use by special exception from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Pad D is located in the northwest portion of the site. It is east of the Candlelight Diner and west of the westernmost entranceway or access driveway into the shopping center. Pad D has some other tenants in it. There you have a Chase Bank to the far north. Then you have Moe's Southwest Grill, and then there's a Party City to the west. And as I mentioned, K Jewelers, which once occupied about 3,400 square feet of Pad D, has since closed its store and vacated the building. At Banfield needs this special exception in order to allow it to convert the K Jewelers space to be used for a 3,396 square foot pet hospital. The hospital will operate generally operate, and we expect this one to operate with 2 veterinarians, 4 vet techs, and 3 client service coordinators that will work at the facility during the day. There will be no overnight boarding of any animals. In the event that there's an emergency, Banfield partners with local 24-hour emergency facilities to make sure that any pet that needs to stay overnight will get proper care in another facility. So there is no overnight boarding in this facility. There will be no outdoor pens or cages or runs. All of the facilities will be maintained from within this existing tenant space. Because Banfield is going to be converting an existing tenant space and will not be making any exterior modifications to that space, the space will remain fully compliant with all of the prior approvals of the shopping center, and no variance relief is going to be required or will be required for this application. And while the size of the space will remain the same, I'm going to have Dane Kenny explain in a minute. Banfield is installing some sound dampening materials on the interior walls from the floor to the roof deck in order to minimize the potential for any noise impacts. And with respect to parking for a regional shopping center such as this, the town code requires 1 space for every 166 square feet of gross floor area, regardless of the use. So since Banfield is merely going to be occupying an existing use that was in the center, its use will comply with all of the town's parking requirements. Again, no variances are required. I detailed in the addendum that I submitted with our application to the board how Banfield's proposal meets the 13 general standards that are required for a special exception use generally, as well as how it meets all of the applicable special standards that are required for this particular special exception use for an animal hospital. With respect to the special standards, only 2 of them actually apply because this site is located in the SCB district, not in the WSI district where the other 2 criteria apply. Banfield's proposal satisfies all of the applicable special standards. First, because all of the treatment rooms, the cages, the pens, the runs, the kennels will all be located within a completely enclosed building, which is one of the requirements. And as Banfield's engineers will testify in a minute, the proposed structure will achieve the required sound transmission loss to comply with Town Code Section 207, which is the noise ordinance. And then finally, with respect to the last standard that involves odors and refuse removal, the use has been designed with materials and equipment that will absorb odors, and Banfield will retain the services of a refuse removal company and have the refuse picked up from the site on a regular basis. And then finally, there was a planning advisory report that was prepared by the planning department. It's dated January 4th of 2021. And that report recommends that the special exception for an animal hospital be approved by this board. And I point out in that report, the planning department found that Banfield's proposal meets all of the general and special criteria or standards for an animal hospital special exception. So that concludes my presentation. I would just ask Dane Kenny to just very briefly just speak about the sound attenuation and just give a brief description about what the changes are on this building, if you don't mind, Dane. You're on mute. There you go.
Hi. Good evening, members of the board.
Excuse me, before you start, could you state your name, give your address, please, and spell your
Right.
last?
Yes,
Thank you.
Dane Kenny, DaneKenny. I'm a New York State licensed engineer with the consulting firm BHB Engineering, located at 100 Motor Parkway, Suite 350, Hauppauge, New York, 11788.
Thank you.
So I'll just briefly touch on the requirement for sound attenuation. The proposed interior renovation of the existing building space will include the installation of sound attenuation walls and other measures that will be designed to mitigate and limit sounds from the proposed pet hospital to 65 decibels and less, pursuant to
Just
town code
65 decibels.
or less.
I just still didn't hear you.
Yeah, to 65 decibels or less.
Or less. Thank you.
Yes, pursuant to Town Code Chapter 207 noise ordinance. Per the requirements of Town Code 322-82C specific standards. So the structural plans and specifications that are required to be submitted as part of the building permit application will bear the certification of an acoustic engineer verifying that the implemented sound attenuation measures are designed to achieve the required sound losses necessary to comply with Chapter 207 noise ordinance of the town codes. Yeah, based on my review of the information provided by Banfield, sound attenuation walls will be installed under the demyscene walls that are shared with the adjacent tenants. Typically, these walls consist of steel framing, air gaps, sound attenuating sheetrocks, and insulation. And generally, these details are designed to provide as much as 50 decibels of sound loss, which would get you below the required 65 decibel as required per Chapter 207. So as I mentioned before, the actual plans that will be submitted to the building department for permits will actually have to be certified that the town requirements for noise attenuation will be met. I mean, if the board has any questions or require any additional information, I do have Jason Ross from my office, who's a little bit more of an expert on noise reduction.
I just have a question. The noise reduction material, does that go to the ceiling or does it go all the way up to the underside of the slab?
It goes all the way up to the underside of the roof. There's also, and also from the floor slab up all the way up to the roof.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I have nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone on the board have any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
No questions? Blaze, did we get anything, written information from anyone that should be read into the record?
No, we did not.
No, we did not. All right, then we can open it up. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to speak on this application?
People, if you want to use the wave your hand button, or I'm sorry, raise your hand button, which is under reactions. If you do want to speak, that'll give me a chance to find you. Chairman, I don't have anyone raising their hand.
Okay, fine, thank you. With that said, can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved. Second.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded to close the application. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried 4-0. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Stay well and be safe.
You do the same.
Thank you.
The next application on the agenda, case number 18431, Frank and Kathleen Capuano, 124 Brookside Drive, Smithtown. The location of the property is the west side of Brookside Drive, 311 feet north of Shady Lane. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum side yard from 16 feet to 7 feet and total side yards from 34 feet to 21 feet for a proposed 270 square foot pavilion with existing outdoor kitchen. To reduce the minimum side yard from 16 feet to 10 feet for an existing 28 foot by 43 foot in-ground swimming pool.
Chairman, there's a couple of people who have their computers labeled as iPad and some other nicknames. So I'm just going to ask the applicant, please use the wave your hand button so I can identify you, or share your video or unmute yourself. Yeah, go ahead.
Says you can't start a video because the host has stopped it.
Hello?
Do we have the applicant?
For us? No,
No, I don't think so.
that's not the case. That's not our
Oh.
case.
Yeah. You know what we'll do? If the applicant is not here right now, we'll move on to the next case. And we'll come back to this one at a later date tonight.
Okay, if you're having trouble or difficulty, you can use the chat button and I'll be on the lookout for you as well.
You do it, Jen.
All right, moving on to the next case. The next case is case number 18432, Alan and Anarita Chinchoy, 60 Broadview Drive, Comac. The location of the property is the west side of Broadview Drive, 141 feet south of Shirley Court. The property is zoned R21. The applicants are requesting a variance to reduce the minimum side yard from 16 feet to 5 feet and total side yards from 34 feet to 13 feet for 3 existing sheds, Shed A, 114 square feet, Shed B, 87 square feet, and C, Shed C, 67 square feet.
Good evening. We have the applicant.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening. Could you state your name, please, sir?
Yes, my name is Alan Chinchoy and my wife Anna Rita Chinchoy.
Okay, good evening. Okay, would you like to tell us why you need the variance, please?
Well, thank you for your time. What we're doing is just following procedure. We've lived here for 13 years. It was only just recently told that we were to apply for permits for the 3 structures. And these are all pre-existing for the last 13 years. We haven't done any changes. If you'll have the information and the pictures, you can see how pretty old they are. And we just want to comply. Nothing more, nothing less. There's just the same existing structures we've had for the last 13 years. And I had cancer back in 2003, and I haven't had a chance to start doing any yard work, and it's just me doing the work. I don't hire anyone to do any work. It's just myself and the 2 children that live here. And basically it's simple home.
Okay, hope you're doing well.
Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Blaze, have we received any kind of written documentation concerning this application?
No, we have not.
No? All right. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to speak on this application?
Once again, if you do want to speak, you can just use the reaction icon at the bottom of your screen and just raise your hand. Chairman, I have no one raising their hand.
All right, fine. With that said, can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman and board, for your time. Thank
Have a
you.
nice evening.
Has the previous applicant been able to establish contact with us?
No, there's somebody that keeps coming in under the identity iPad.
Hello?
Hello? Sorry. As I was saying, Chairman, there's somebody who is coming in listed under iPad, and they're raising their hand right now. Let me just see if they're, I'm going to unmute them and start the video, see if that's them.
All right.
Okay, so you're unmuted. Hi.
Hi.
Or ma'am, hi.
No, sorry, I'm helping my dad.
Okay. What's your father's name?
He's right here.
Capuano.
Oh, okay, so that's the application from before.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Technical difficulties, I guess.
All right. Blaze, you want to reread it, please?
Okay. Going back to the previous case, case number 18431, Frank and Kathleen Capuano, 124 Brookside Drive, Smithtown, the location of the property, the west side of Brookside Drive, 311 feet north of Shady Lane. Property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum side yard from 16 feet to 7 feet and total side yards from 34 feet to 21 feet for proposed 270 square foot pavilion with existing outdoor kitchen. To reduce the minimum side yard from 16 feet to 10 feet for an existing 28 foot by 43 foot in-ground swimming pool.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Frank Capuano.
Kathleen Capuano.
Okay, thank you. Could you tell us why you're here and you need the variances, please?
Because the pool and the outdoor kitchen doesn't meet the side yards.
Okay. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you. No.
No. All right, Blaze, have we received any written documentation concerning this application?
We have not received anything in writing, Mr. Chairman.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application?
Chairman, I don't have anybody with their hand up except for our speaker.
Okay. With that said, then can I have a motion to close the application, please?
I'll make a motion to close this application.
And I will second that motion.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried 4-0. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Moving to the next case on the agenda, case number 18434, Jeffrey Lauber, 15 Abbott Road, Smithtown. The location of the property is the north side of Abbott Road, 610 feet east of Knoll Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to decrease the minimum setback of a retaining wall from the property line from 3 feet to 0 for an existing 19-inch retaining wall, to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the side yard from 25% to 75% for proposed paving.
We have the applicant.
Yes, they're here. Just hit the mute button so you can speak. We're having trouble with your maybe your volume's off. No, we still can't hear you.
How about now? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Sorry. Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Lauber. I reside at 15 Abbott Road in Smithtown. I'd like to first apologize for doing this project before getting the board's approval. I did not do so originally because a permit for a wall less than 30 inches is not required. After speaking with the inspector, Joe, and Mr. William White, they clarified the town code for me because the inspector was here upon completion of my previous approved wall in my rear yard. I had my contractor build a small wall and prepare for a paved surface to improve the damages that were done to the side of the house from the work in the back. By doing this, I feel that it improves the look and creates a better future access to my rear yard. And it creates more paved surface for my 3 children to play in the yard.
That retaining wall,
Yes.
does it encroach on your neighbor's property?
It should not, because I measured with, if you look at my survey that I measured off of, it should be approximately at the closest 4 inches off of their property line.
All right. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
When you measured 13'8", did you measure that to the front of the wall or to the back side of the wall?
That 13'8" is to the back of the wall, because that's not that's from the survey, that 13'8". And that's, it's actually 13.8, but after talking to the surveyor.
And what is the dimension from your house to the back of the wall?
Dimension from my house to the back of the wall would be probably about 13'5".
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Blaze, have we received any written documentation concerning this application?
We did, Mr. Chairman. We received a document with attached photos from one of the adjacent neighbors. It's rather lengthy, so reading it into the record might take some time, but I do believe the neighbor may be present to speak on their own behalf.
All right, we'll find out. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application?
Yes, hello, I'm here, Audrey Walker.
Okay, could you give your address, please, Audrey?
I'm Audrey Walker, my husband Jeff Walker. We reside at 17 Abbott Road. We are the property to the west of 15 Abbott Road, and we've been here for 20 years.
All right.
I'm here in objection to the wall and the extension of the driveway. As you can see by the photos and the document that I dropped off on Friday, the wall, Mr. Lauber's proposed wall was a mention of when he first moved in back in 2018. When he applied for the variance and the paperwork for his two other walls to the north and the east of his property, there was no mention of the west side wall. If there was a mention of the west side wall, I would have come to the variance meeting. Mr. Lauber built this wall within a weekend without getting the proper approval or permits. Building this wall has left us with a precarious hill situation as to when we mow our lawn and maintain that side of the hill, as you can see by the photos that I've submitted. We also object to the extension of the driveway because it's going to be used as now a working driveway, which is right outside of my bedroom window, my dining room window, and my deck is behind the gates, my gates. And my two basement windows are also over on that side. So we're concerned about the noise. We're concerned about fumes from the cars, which do run at lengthy periods of time. They can run from anywhere from 20 minutes to 30 minutes in the morning, at the early hours of the morning. And we're just trying to enjoy our property to what it was, or to what we're entitled to. I understand Mr. Lauber is entitled to build a retaining wall, and I understand he's allowed to pave some driveway, but his building of the retaining wall and his driveway should not encroach on the enjoyment of my property. When Mr. Lauber was building this retaining wall, I went over to him and asked him if he was building a retaining wall the Friday before he built it, I believe, or the Thursday before he built it, and he said he was. I said, well, it wasn't on the paperwork. He said he would get in touch with the town to inquire. He did not get in touch with the town to inquire, and he built the wall anyway. I took a picture. I went down to the town. They told me he should have gotten a variance, and they told me it should have been 3 feet off the property line, which it is not. If Mr. Lauber had built the retaining wall 3 feet where it was supposed to be, the hill would have come to its natural grade, and we would not have this problem with a potential dangerous hazard of mowing the lawn when it's wet and slippery, and somebody could potentially fall with a running lawnmower and get hurt. So I'm in opposition to the approval of the retaining wall and the extension of the driveway. And I think it would set a precedence for houses on the block to be able to use your side yard as a working driveway.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience like to be heard on this application?
Chairman, I don't have anybody with their hands up. I'll give it another second.
Okay,
May I say one more thing?
quickly.
No other houses on this block have a driveway like this. This will set a precedent for all the other houses on the block to be able to do this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, I don't have anybody else with their raised hand.
Okay, would the applicant like to address the concerns of the neighbor?
Yes, so I did speak to Ms. Walker, and she is correct. I did do this wall very quickly because as they were working their way out from the project, Where that wall is now was actually, I improved the grade there because that grade did not change on their side. If anything, I actually moved it more towards my side, improving the grade by doing this. And that was, I also went over this with her, and I was falsely informed initially from the paperwork that I had from the previous wall. It stated that a wall 30 inches or less does not need a permit. So therefore I built the wall because I didn't know that there was anything in the town code about that. And my contractor was working his way out. So we did that, and then the inspector came and pointed this out to me. And then even after speaking to Mr. William White and the engineering department, several phone calls back and forth to clarify about a less than 30 inch wall, that was probably took a few hours as well. I believe that's it, but I don't believe that I've decreased as more of a hazard over there, because now there's actually a 12-foot level piece of wall to walk on.
A level what?
Please.
He broke up, Mr. Lauber, you broke up. There is actually a 12-foot level.
Hey, 12 inch, not 12 foot.
Okay.
12-inch level, like walkway on top of the wall, because prior, I have a ride-on lawnmower, and that grade used to just, if you just imagine that coming straight down, that's what it used to do. And one reason I did this was to improve the drainage, because now the side of my house is not all mushy, because that's what happened when the trucks went in and out. It destroyed the side. So we said, oh, why don't we just put in a driveway? So then in the future, if I ever have to go in the backyard, I don't have to worry about paying several times to repair it. And I use the same decorative block that I used in the back. I don't know, any other questions?
All right, thank you. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
May I speak again to that, please?
No. You get one opportunity.
Oh, well, I want to rebuke what he has to say, though.
No. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
The next application on the agenda is case number 18436, Marjorie Egas, 11 Archer Lane, Kings Park. The location of the property, the east side of Archer Lane, 68 feet
If you're not
south.
speaking, please mute your microphone, Mr. Donadio. The location of the property.
Sorry. The location of the property is the east side of Archer Lane, 68 feet south of Bauman Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to increase the height of a wall and fence from 6 feet to 10 feet, decrease the minimum setback of a 4-foot retaining wall from the property line from 4 feet to 0 for wall A, decrease the minimum setback of a 6-foot fence to a wall from 6 feet to 2 feet for wall A, increase the height of a wall and fence from 6 feet to 10 feet, decrease the minimum setback of a 4-foot retaining wall from the property line from 4 feet to 2 feet, increase the height of a wall and fence from 6 feet to 10 feet for wall B, increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the rear yard from 25% to 75%.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Could you state your name, please, for the record?
Sure. My name is Marjorie Egas, and
My name is Carlos Di Fonseca. I'm an architect, 12510 Queens Boulevard.
Could you spell your last name, please, sir? So
I need your first and last name, sir.
Carlos. Carlos. Last name is Di Fonseca, DEFONSECA, registered architect.
Okay. Would you like this gentleman to speak on your behalf?
yes, that's fine. I'm here to answer questions as well.
Okay.
So basically what we have on, if we go to wall B, we have, this is property located in a sloped side where we have maybe about 4 feet difference between the grade level on her property and the property on the right. So in order to create, to put the fence is actually on the property. They built this retaining wall that is, it should have been a little bit more away from the location of the fence, but because of the size of the pool and because the fact that they need area, they have somebody handicapped that comes to the property, they need the actual paved area. That's one situation that we have there. On wall B, which is the rear wall, we have only a small portion of fence that it will be above a retaining wall. That property line, the length is about 59.58 feet. And that retaining wall that was done also holding property from the neighbors is only about 10-15 feet. It's a very small portion of that back property line. The rest of the fence along that side is going to be on grade. It's not going to be more than 6 feet above the existing grade line. The same issue with along the property line, the C elevation, the fence will be located at side the property line. Also, there's a big difference between the level of her property and the neighbor property. The fence will be on her property and it's not going to be more than 6 feet, which is the permitted. So that's, unfortunately, the conditions on wall A, were done. She was not really too much aware of it, and as a builder, and she really need that because there were, a lot of runoff and things going on her property and on the pool that she probably rushed to build the fence without. But we're talking about a very little difference between what will code require and what the actual condition is. And by the way, these fences are not really affecting anything on the neighbor properties or they won't affect the no neighbors or the character of the neighborhood or anything like that. So.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone on the board that has any questions on this application?
No, thank
My
you.
only question would be the location where the retaining wall is 0 foot setback. Is that just the two corners where it butts the side property lines?
What is the fence is on wall A, but wall A we have is only with this mark with yellow. That's where we have the retaining wall. Everywhere else is going to be right on the property line. Yes.
Yeah, no, I get that, but there's one variance that's asked for where the setback from the retaining wall to the property line is from 4 feet to 0 feet. And I'm just assuming that that's where the end of it abuts.
Yes,
I would guess that's the rear property line?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
No, thank you.
Mr. Donadio, have we received any kind of written documentation concerning this application?
No, we have not.
All right, is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application?
Chairman, I do not have anyone with their hand up.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
A motion to close this application.
Second.
Motion has been made. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18435, Francis Sawyer, 23 Overton Pass, St. James. The location of the property is the southwest side of Overton Pass, 263 feet south of Three Sisters Road in St. James. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum rear yard from 75 feet to 67 feet for a proposed 1,000 square foot 2-story addition with a 487 square foot garage under.
Do we have the applicant?
Yes,
Hello. Could you state your name, please, for the record?
Francis Sawyer.
Okay, Francis. And would you like to, are you going to speak, sir?
yes, I'm a husband.
Okay, first names we get into the record.
Warren.
Thank you. Like to tell us why you need the variance?
Well, we already got this variance for an extension previously, and we're just continuing that same line. I was always told that once you got it once, it was continued, but I guess you've changed that. So we're just continuing the same line of variance that was granted, what, 20 years ago, I think?
All right. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Questions? Mr. Donadio, have we received any written documentation concerning this application?
No, we have not.
No. Then is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application?
Chairman, I don't have anyone with their hands up.
All right. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
I'll make a motion to close this application.
Second.
Motion has been made. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18437, Joseph and Samantha Henton, 16 Peony Lane, Comac. The location of the property, the west side of Peony Lane, 305 feet north of Walter Court. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the front yard setback from 40 feet to 37 feet for an existing 24 square foot front portico.
Hi, good evening. My name is Samantha Henton, and this is my husband, Joseph Henton, and we live at 16 Peony Lane in Comac.
Good evening.
Good evening. We are just requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback just by 3 feet for a small existing front portico that was built over our existing stoop.
All right. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No question.
No, thank you.
No. Mr. Donadio, have you received any written documentation concerning this application?
No, we have not.
No. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to be heard on this application?
Chairman, I don't have anyone using the raise hand button.
All right, thank you. With that said, can we have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.
You too now.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes?
I do not have anybody with the with the next applicant's name listed under participants. It's possible that they're here, but their names aren't properly listed.
Is it Mr. Tramarco?
Oh, is it? No, sorry, I have
It's Mike Federico. I'm here.
Mike
Oh,
Federico.
no.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. The next applicant, thank you.
Okay, sorry.
Are we okay?
Yes.
Yeah, we're okay.
Okay. The next application on the agenda is case number 18438, 2004 Willits LLC, 350 Moreland Road, Comac. The location of the property is the northwest corner of Moreland Road and Mall Drive. The property is zoned LI. The applicant is requesting a modification of a special exception for a trucking station, a variance to a special exception standard requiring adequate parking, variance to reduce the minimum parking from 173 to 140 spaces, a variance to reduce the minimum parking setback from the front property line from 50 feet to 35 feet on Moreland Road, a variance to reduce the minimum parking setback from the front property line from 50 feet to 44 feet on Mall Drive, and to eliminate required landscaping islands.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tramarco. I represent the applicant, and pursuant to your requirements, we've submitted earlier today affidavits of posting and mailing. And I guess you can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess the first order of business would be the fact that this special exception was approved as a trucking station some time ago, and we're now looking to modify it. I don't know whether you want me to go through all the criteria. I'd be happy to do it. But I believe that part of the report done by the planning department does give sufficient information with respect to that, but I'd be happy to run through it if you'd like.
It's not necessary. The report covers everything.
So
Okay, thank you.
adjourn or what?
I'm sorry? So in any event, we would, of course, we have to come in now because we're asking for a modification, and the variances of the special exception are requested are, one would be a reduction of parking from 173 to 140 spaces. As the planning department reports indicate, this is adequate for this use as the office space as opposed to the storage, which this is a moving and storage company, is quite adequate. Further, we've learned in the past year that less office space may very well accommodate our employees, as some of them, not all of them, but quite a few work from home. The variance setback from 50 to 35 feet on Moreland Drive, it's also indicated in the planning report and recommendation that given the fact that there is adequate foliage planted and that two other extensions were granted which were greater than or with a lesser setback than the 35 feet, which we're asking for parking, neither do we or the planning department feel that that's something that would have an adverse effect on the neighborhood, which obviously is all industrial. The next parking setback is from 50 to 44, which obviously is de minimis. And finally, we're asking to eliminate, well, that's not finally, but to eliminate landscape islands. And again, the report given by the planning department does recommend the elimination of the planting islands.
Did I lose you, Mr. Trimarco?
No, I was just trying to collect my thoughts. Thank you. Variance, the variances and the special exception as a whole have been approved by the recommended approval by the planning department. I just like to note that with the cooperation of Councilman Thomas McCarthy, who actually came to the site and had some very good suggestions, I believe then he communicated with Mr. Hans, Peter Hans, the director of planning. We then communicated and had a meeting with Mr. Hans and came up with a landscape plan, which I believe the planning department approved. This landscape plan, most importantly, is an area that was used for parking of trucks It is now landscaped with a multitude of trees. And as one of the conditions of recommendation of approval by the planning department is that the applicant put fencing along with, they are asking for additional evergreen and deciduous trees to restore the buffer. We think we have completed all the planning. We don't have any objection to that condition of putting up a fence. Of course, the Board of Site Plan Review will have the final deciding of the how dense the buffer to be to screen from Parkway view. The applicant is also limited to the existing square footage of 869.19, which is another condition recommended by the planning department. As we said, it's more likely that it'll be less used for that much office space, as the trend now is at least partially working from home. So, and the non-warehouse of the repair shop will stay at 4716 square feet. And any future expansions, obviously, we'd have to come before the board. There is another condition, replace the 6-foot chain link fence in the required front yard along Parkway Drive with a new opaque fence as determined by the Board of Site Plan Review. Again, we don't have any objection to doing so. So given the recommendation of the planning department and the application being for only a modification of an existing special exception, we feel that the variance will conform to the character of the area. Again, I said it was it is in an industrial area, so it's not like we're asking to build this or to use it in some other area like a business area or residential area. Can the benefit be sought by some other alternative? Well, really, this is the place where we've chosen to run our business. We've expanded the building twice. My client enjoys doing business in Smithtown and certainly would like to stay there. Would it have an adverse effect on the environment? We think not. Again, it's an industrial park. This is the purpose of an industrial park, to have industry located in an area where it has less effect on surrounding neighbors, as the surrounding neighbors are also industrial uses. The difficulty, we don't believe, well, to some extent it was self-created in the fact that we did encroach upon that buffer. We are in a position now where we figured out where to park and how to park our trucks and trailers. And obviously that area between the parkway and our building will now be fenced and treed, and so there will be no use of that for any type of parking. It will solely be a buffer. So we asked the board for its favorable consideration. You heard initially Mike Federico answer. He is one of the members of Liberty Moving and Storage and the applicant herein. If you have any questions of him, I'm sure he can try to answer them. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tramarko. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Mr. Donadio, have we received any written documentations concerning this application? Lou?
Sorry, I was muted. No, we have not.
Oh, we have not. Okay, fine. Thank you.
I like that.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application?
Chairman, I don't have anybody with the raised hand button on.
Okay, thank you. With that said, can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18426, Brian Foster, 347 Northern Boulevard, St. James. The location of the property is the east side of Northern Boulevard, 698 feet south of North Country Road. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a special exception to permit temporary living quarters for a parent, a variance of a special exception standard to increase the floor area of temporary living quarters from 600 square feet to 858 square feet. A variance to permit a second one-story family dwelling on an R10 lot for temporary living trailer, and to reduce the minimum side yard from 12 feet to 11 feet for proposed 32 square foot deck.
Thank you. Do we have the applicant, please?
Yes, you do. Good evening, everybody. This is Brian Foster and my wife, Wendy Foster.
Good evening.
Evening.
Okay. Would you like to tell us, Brian, why you're here for the application?
Yes, we are.
Mr. Chairman, I'm here to speak on the application on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you, Mike.
Who's that?
This is, for the record, Michael Morbillo, architect, representing the applicant, Inspire Design Group, 273 Lake Avenue, St. James, New York.
Okay, Michael, go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you very much. The application that we have before you this evening is for a special exception to permit temporary living quarters. The temporary living quarters are being proposed for the Foster's parents, husband and wife. They're looking to move in with them into the temporary living quarters. We're proposing that as a substantial part of the addition. The Fosters are also planning a general renovation of their home in providing the family living quarters. Also, as part of what they're doing in doing this work, they are seeking to have a temporary living trailer on the property. Their parents are selling their home, and they'll be moving in with the Fosters once the renovation is complete. The parents will be moving in with some other family members. However, to find a short-term rental for the Fosters is a bit difficult. So we have asked for relief for these temporary living trailers when it's not easy to find other accommodations, and being the way that the rental market is right now. So we're asking that be included in the application. There's a small request for a reduction in the side yard for a deck, which is basically a platform on the side of the house. So it's a low platform. It is actually shown in the left side elevation. If you look in the bottom right hand side, there's a small platform there. It's basically just to go out the side sliding doors, which are part of the family living quarters. We are asking for an increase in the area of the living quarters. However, we do feel that that will blend in with the overall character of the home and will not have an impact on the neighborhood. since we are maintaining all of the FAR requirements. And one of the items that we have in here, I just look at it briefly, is it's relative to the planning advisory report. I just want to put on the record, I have reviewed the planning advisory report with my clients, and we are in full agreement with the report and fully accept all conditions thereof related to their report, specifically about the temporary trailer being removed within 6 months from the date of the certificate of occupancy, and that that this will be removed at such time when the project is completed. Beyond that, we reviewed all of the comments in the planning advisory report and are in full agreement with them. I think that generally that concludes all of the items we're asking for. Certainly, everything that we're doing here will not have an environmental impact on the property. We are doing an upgrade on the septic system that's on the property. We'll be meeting all town standards as far as control of runoff and all those elements. It will not have an adverse impact on the neighborhood. Again, we'll be within FAR requirements. We feel that we're creating a charming home here that we expect will improve values within the neighborhood. There isn't another way to place this home on the property or place the addition on the property. So we're working with the existing home, and we understand that that although this is self-created, being that they bought the property in its conditions, this will not be substantial. As I mentioned, the only real request on here was the deck setback and I consider a modest increase in the area of the parental living quarters. If the board has any questions at this time, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
I will ask. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
All right. Mr. Donadio, have you received any written documentation concerning this application?
No, we have not.
No. All right. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to be heard on this application?
Chairman, I don't have anyone with their hands up.
All right. With that said, can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a
Thank
good
you very
evening.
much.
You're quite welcome. Have a nice evening.
You too.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18427, Magdalena Klakowska, 14 Saratoga Street, Comac. The location of the property, the south side of Saratoga Street, 338 feet east of Yates Avenue. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the front yard from 25% to 45%, to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the rear yard from 25% to 90%, to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the east side yard from 25% to 75%, and to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the west side yard from 25% to 40% for existing paving.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. We've submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing this afternoon to the planning department. At first off, I would like to indicate that the house was built and CO'd in 1958. It was CO'd by a builder called Rib Lane Realty Company. Thereafter, in 1980, there was a permit and a CO, I guess, for a wood burning stove. And then in 2020, my clients performed certain work on the premises. They converted part of the basement to a playroom, and that was CO'd on 2/10/2020. They then installed an in-ground swimming pool with a heater, and that was CO'd on 5/12/2020. And on 9/2/2020, they completed a first floor addition and a second floor addition with attic space, which again was CO'd, as I said, in 9/2/2020. I say this only because what happened was when the building inspector came to check all of these additions and construction and the swimming pool, he noticed the amount of paving that had been completed at the site. And that paving, obviously, as you can see from the variance application, is and seems very substantial. However, one of the reasons that there is that much paving is because the house is at least on 2 and maybe 3 different elevations. So the rearmost of the property is contained, and you can see it on the survey. And also, there is a good picture of it on your screen. That is the back portion, and that's contained and retained by a stone retaining wall, which also contains the CO'd swimming pool. This is about a 24-inch wall, and it was necessary because of the topography of the land. So around the swimming pool was paved with either slate or pavers, but the pavers or the surfaces used around the pool are drainage effective in the sense that there are joints and it's not a solid impervious surface. Also, my client had provided drainage and drainage pipes within the property itself, so it all drains to retaining walls. That is also true for the side and the side yards. Now, the front has a kind of a circular driveway. Again, it's something that provides drainage through the pavers. I'd also like to indicate that there is a fair amount, more than a fair amount of evergreens planted along the fence lines of the property. So that in itself will take care of any water problems. We don't feel that this would be a change in the character of the area or have any impact on adjacent properties. They're really combined to the property itself. Although the variance we're asking for may seem substantial, we think that in this case, it makes sense for the applicants to have paved the way they did, given the fact that there are different levels of topography with respect to the subject property. Can the benefit be sought by some other alternative? Well, I guess you could pull out some of the paving stones or paving blocks and put grass there, but really, as long as there is no adverse effect on drainage, we don't feel that that's something that would make any sense, given, again, the topography of the ground. Would it have an adverse effect on the environment? We have not seen any adverse effects as far as drainage goes. All the property, that property contains all of its own runoff. Was the difficulty self-created? It was. And the way it was discovered is when they applied for all of the permits and COs, the building inspector informed them of the problem with the paving. So we ask for the board's favorable consideration. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Mr. Donadio, have we received any written documentation concerning this application?
No, we have not.
All right, is there anyone in the audience that'd like to be heard on this application?
No, Chairman.
No. All right, with that said, can I have a motion to close the application, please?
I'll make a motion to close this application.
And I'll second it.
Motion has been made, it's been seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes our hearing for tonight.